Got it. Roll intro. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Calc Soups here, and welcome to the Friend Zone, a monthly video game show where I discuss the latest games with my friends. Today we got an extra special episode. We already did Psychonauts last weekend, and now this weekend we'll be talking about Deathloop, which we all had a good time playing. First, we'll start off with Arcane, what they've been up to, what our experience is with Arcane. Then we'll be talking about what we are expecting and how would we describe the game. We'll talk about the tutorial, first getting our hands on the game. We'll talk about the gameplay and how kind of the stealth shooter plus time looping works. We'll talk about the weapons and the puzzles, very important in a shooter. Puzzles were actually pretty fun in this game. We'll talk about the characters and the narrative. We'll talk about kind of finishing up the golden loop. Again, spoilers for everybody watching, so be sure to take that as your spoiler warning. We'll talk about the length of the game and then also the multiplayer aspects, and then we'll wrap it up with our final thoughts. So without further ado, let's jump in and start talking. Let's go around and meet the friends. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin. I've been trapped in this live stream for what I think has been hundreds of years now, just
Potentially,
talking
yeah.
about Deathloop over and over again.
And we
So
got
yeah, that's fun.
we got Patrick.
Hello, I'm Patrick. I love to loop.
And we got Steven.
Hi, everybody. My name is Steven.
It sure is. Okay.
Now I'm suspicious that it might not be.
Yeah,
It seemed very forced.
if that is his real name. Well, great. Let's hop right in. Before going in, I think Arcane was definitely very foot forward with like being involved in kind of the marketing of the game. I don't have too much experience with Arcane. I mean, I know that they are under Bethesda, and I love most everything that Bethesda does, but I hadn't played the previous like Dishonored's or anything like that. So, what are your guys' thoughts on kind of Arcane or experience with Arcane in the past?
I have not played, like, I like Arcane as a studio a lot. A lot of their stuff sort of speaks to an aesthetic that I really like. That said, I have not played like their complete library. I played the heck out of Dishonored 1,
Cool.
um, and I've been kind of meandering through Dishonored 2, but have not yet completed it yet. I have
Mm-hmm.
not played Prey or anything
Oh,
else.
that reminds me. I did play about halfway through Prey, and I loved like you said, the aesthetic of it.
Yeah, I played the first Dishonored ages ago and ran like a game club thing for it online.
Ooh.
Um, so that was a cool experience, and yeah, I don't know how I feel about them overall as a studio. I mostly like what they do. I really liked Prey.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the first Dishonored. The the world didn't grab me as much as it did for some people.
Yeah.
But it was still very well done. It's still a very good game. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Going into this, I just was expecting definitely like a certain level of polish and
Mm-hmm.
like intricate world building, which I think it delivered on.
Yeah. Steven, what's your history with Arcane?
I don't think I've played any of the I haven't played Dishonored. I don't know if I've played any game by them before
Okay.
Deathloop.
Okay. All right. Yeah, which means I think we kind of think some people who know the Dishonored portion of it will definitely maybe have felt that, and then otherwise you're in it with fresh eyes, which is great. So Patrick talked a little bit about his expectations. Arcane, I think, has a good track record. I think they usually make very aesthetically pleasing games. I think it's most of the games have been shooters or at least first person. But what were you guys expecting?
Yeah. Honestly, I I was expecting something a little more apart, divorced from kind of the Dishonored formula. than what Deathloop ended up being. I mean, as I said, I liked Dishonored, so it wasn't like an unpleasant subversion of my expectations. But I was really expecting something a little more shootery
Okay.
and a little more like the Hitman franchise or something. Not to say there's
Okay.
definitely elements of this that it still have parts of that, but this was much closer to in some ways, in some aspects, even like almost a straight port of a lot of game mechanics that you see in Dishonored in a way that I was not expecting. Like
Okay.
way more Dishonored DNA than I was expecting in this thing.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Yeah, and there's a lot of moments where it's just like, oh, I almost just kind of wish this was Dishonored.
It frankly it made me want to go back and play Dishonored. I actually re-downloaded Dishonored 2 and decided to play through and finish that after I finished Deathloop.
Ooh. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of went in expecting Dishonored. I mean, like I said, I haven't played it, but I kind of expected Dishonored-y, Dishonored plus, yeah, just like the aesthetic. And I know that like Dishonored's got the teleport mechanic or the shift mechanic. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, a lot of, I'd say over half of the like slab powers are straight up just like abilities
Mm,
you get in Dishonored. Like they function basically identically. There's some twists with the upgrades you can get for them, but like Nexus and Shift and I think even Carnesis were very similar to what you can get in Dishonored games, and I might be even blanking other ones that are similar too. I think there is an invisibility one.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stephen,
So
I mean, you didn't play any of the previous games, so you probably had the least kind of expectation going in.
I think I was expecting something similar to BioShock.
Okay.
Um,
hmm,
just in terms of gameplay, because
Yeah.
that's sort of my point of reference for left hand psychic powers, right hand gun.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. I definitely, yeah, got it. Oh, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with,
yeah.
because Bioshock's one of my favorite games. So like, it's definitely, yeah. The the stealth portion of it, I guess, would probably harken back to Dishonored stuff. Like
Yeah, definitely.
you know,
Very much.
okay, okay,
yeah, there was a lot more stealth than I was anticipating. I was
okay.
expecting it to be um, a little bit more shootery.
Mm, yeah, yeah,
To be fair, and this is kind of the case with Dishonored too. I mean, there's there's a there's a lot of options for stealth. You can go loud through like every aspect of that game
Oh
almost.
yeah,
It's kind of
totally.
hard, but
sure.
It
like,
just definitely the way that they have it just felt like with the particular, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, the particular powers and things that they gave you definitely seemed to be more stealth oriented
yeah,
than
I agree with
Yeah,
that for
it's
sure.
encouraged for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's same in Dishonored, really.
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's my expectations, was sort of a more BioShocky kind of like, you know,
Yeah, more
chaotic shoot 'em up.
yeah,
Yeah,
more
with
of that.
powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely have to start with the tutorial loop because this probably was one of the aspects of the game I was least, or at least like left the worst taste in my mouth. Was just like I know that they were trying to get us into the game and stuff like that, and kind of explain a little bit of how like the world works, and I was like kind of okay with that, but like it definitely dragged on a little bit. It was like the first 3 hours of the game is just you going through like
Yeah,
the island and kind of
the
learning
game.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The game takes, I think, probably too long to open up into what its actual like core gameplay loop is. Um, and I think that's. I didn't hate it,
Okay.
but I definitely see where the criticism comes from because that it's a long tutorial before you can like take things between loops and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that was sort of the I didn't hate the tutorial because there's a lot of fucking systems in the
Yes.
game that you have to sort of like understand, because if you don't understand them real well, then you could like get something really good and then lose it and be like, "Oh
Mm.
shit, I didn't understand it."
I know. I saw apparently some people weren't paying attention. I saw some posts on Reddit from people that never realized that they could keep things between loop. They never unlocked
Oh
the
wow.
Residium,
Oh
and they
Jesus.
actually like
Oh my
completed the
god.
game without it, uh,
Oh wow.
which is insane.
Get good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so but it was pretty long in terms of like just but I understand why they had to do it, because
Yeah.
if you do, it's sort of in the same way that like Majora's Mask, you have to go through your first whole 3-day cycle and then it
Mm.
before it really explains how to turn back time, because if you don't live out the full time loop, you don't really understand like this is kind of
Yeah.
what's going on. I understand why they did it, but it was very long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I definitely I get the. I will say that through that whole thing, I never got to a point that I get to sometimes in overlong tutorials where I'm like, okay, I get it, guys. Yeah. Like I still felt like it was all. I thought it flowed okay, but it was long.
Yeah. It
I
had a
guess.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, okay, so now we've gotten through kind of the tutorial loop, and we actually start getting into the game. And I think we talked about kind of this in our description too, is like I'm definitely putting it in this like, stealth shooter genre of like, I think I definitely like first couple loops I just like went through the entire loop without ever uncrouching. Like,
Yeah. Lots of
yeah.
crouching.
Yeah, a lot of crab walking.
all right, here's my little thing that always frustrated me about the stealth.
Okay.
The how much noise you were generating was never super clear. Like
Sure.
uh, for me, like Breath of the Wild had that little like sound meter thing, which I think was
Okay.
really nice in some ways, because
Yeah.
there were certain times where like the fireworks were going off and I would expect that to like cover the sound of my gunshot, but
Oh, that would have been a good, cool idea. Dang.
whether or like the when you load into Carl's Bay, there's a big like some of that big text shows up that says like gunshots carry over water. So it's like, okay,
Oh.
so maybe there's, but I never really felt like there was whether that was a true thing that was happening or not. I was never really sure about. So it was always kind of like, well, wait a minute, am I how much noise am I generating here? Because sometimes it would be like I kill one guy and I expect like everyone to come at me, and it's like, oh no one heard that one. But then like I never really felt like I knew how much noise I was generating. So in times, especially like the party to get Alexis Dorsey,
Yes.
it was really difficult to sort of approach it stealthily when I never know how much like can I do this without making too
Yeah.
much noise? If I fire this shot off in this room, is it going to alert everybody in a 3-mile radius?
Yeah. I say this as somebody who had a lot of fun, even with the stealth aspects of the game, but a lot of aspects of this game, and I still enjoyed the game, but sort of speak to a greater unfulfilled promise to me.
Hmm.
I think there was a lot of ambition in this game. I think there are a lot of ideas in this game, and I think that a lot of them ended up being unrealized. Um, I think that the stealth ended up being somewhat of a more simplistic thing than probably was originally the intention of the development team when they set out to make this game. And I think that's true of a lot of things, including some of the things that happen in the core time loop and the way the game is completed. But we can talk a bit more about that when we get to talking about that aspect of the game. Uh, that said, yeah, I feel like the stealth, like Steven was saying, ended up kind of being just a more simplistic version. Like it felt like Stealth and Dishonored, and there wasn't really a lot of intricacy to it.
Mm.
And I'm just grateful that the enemies had those dumb little markers over their heads so that I could tell when they were noticing me, because it would have been a
Yes.
miserable experience without them.
Yeah. I do think of this as somewhat like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a next step in stealth stuff, or it was just like it was just built into the world. But like, if I didn't want to go full Hitman in this, where like I had to like drag bodies and put them in like, I would really like drag bodies and put them in bushes or whatever, because I always hate that about stealth games. And so like the fact that like bodies disappear after I like shoot them, or just I don't, it's part of the, I think it's somewhat part of the world, which just makes it like the world a little bit kookier. But also I just do not want to have to deal with like dragging bodies and putting them behind walls and still getting discovered. Is that
It was weird though that like the bodies
Speaking of,
disappeared, but then left a
They still get
trace.
discovered.
yeah, like you
Yeah.
can still find the bodies. They just, I think that, I mean, I appreciate them doing that because I think they did that to exactly avoid the behavior that you're citing there, Casey.
Yeah.
They clearly still wanted bodies to be noticeable and leave a trace, but they didn't want to encourage players to like waste all this time boringly hiding bodies and stuff.
For
So,
sure.
so they just got rid of that option as a thing that you could do as a player, which I didn't miss for sure. Especially in Dishonored, hiding bodies is a big part of that, and
Oof.
yeah, don't
Yeah.
miss it.
Yeah. Assassin's Creeds, like, yeah, I do not want to hide bodies, especially with what I think of as
Yes.
like at first when I'm just like duck walking through an entire level, like each section takes me like 45 minutes to an hour. But like once I know where to go, and like maybe I'm going a little louder, like then I can get through, or I'm going like I'm pinpoint accurate on kind of where I'm going. Like it only takes me 30 minutes to kind of get in and out, which potentially reduces my full loop cycle from like from 3 to 4 hours down to like 2, which is like definitely less of a time commitment as far as getting through the game.
Yeah. No, I don't have much to add. Sorry.
No problem. So we're going through the game. What were your kind of exciting weapons? What was your kind of loadout at the beginning, at the end? Did it change very much?
The best gun that I got was one of the sidearms that was silent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a big discussion on the Reddit about how that's just the best weapon in the game, period, and no
Yeah.
one uses anything else.
Is
Um,
just extremely good.
Same.
And
Yeah, as soon as I got a silenced weapon, I just like, yeah, everything else was like less convenient to use.
Totally.
especially like considering they had the whole class of weapons, which was like the nail shooter.
Yes.
And it was like once I got a weapon that was just better than
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
why use them?
Yeah, because like I loved the nail shooter, and yeah, and then once I was able to upgrade, I was like, oh, great, it's this bit better, and this is all I'm going to use.
Yeah, I did love the explosive nail gun. That was a lot of fun to use.
Yes.
I like.
I don't know that I got that one.
I'm a fan of needler type weapons. So
Yep.
anything I can do that shoots in someone and pauses for a second and then explodes, I will gravitate towards.
I really
Naturally,
liked the single shot rifle that had explosive
Ooh.
rounds in it.
Yes.
Yep,
That
that's
one
another
was really
big
fun.
one.
Rapier. Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about the, I guess did you guys find a lot of the legendary guns as well?
I think I found most of them. I don't know how many
There's
there
only
are.
4.
Okay.
There's only 4
I
of
was just
them.
gonna say I got 4, so I don't know if that's all.
I never
or-
got the heritage gun, but I have it. I played around with it as I got it as Juliana. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, those were cool. I honestly, none of them are as good as a silenced pistol. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
So coming back to my earlier point, this is another part of the game that I feel was probably simplified at some point during the development cycle. I think that there was at one point an intention to make this game more of a roguelike experience, more of something with variable loot that would change the way you played.
Mm.
there is not a huge variety of loot in this game, and a
No.
lot of the variety is useless with like a few things that are really really good. So I did not really like. I kind of settled on weapons that were good, and then I didn't really feel a desire to like. I didn't use a pepper mill the whole game. I
Sure.
didn't use the 50-50 gun the whole game. I and not saying that you can't use those, and I'm sure they're good in certain circumstances, but like
I like the peppermills,
Ooh,
but
okay.
I could see why you wouldn't use them. I didn't use them that often. Once I got some better ones, I used them like for like crowd control, and that was about it.
yeah, and yeah, and I just used my nail gun for that, I guess. But but I just I just feel like at one point there was supposed to be more guns in this game. There was supposed to be more variety. There's supposed to be more options for builds, and I
Yeah.
didn't feel that. But the
Yeah.
way, like the core way that the weapons are designed, spoke to that for me, and it almost made me expect something that I didn't end up getting when I was first learning the game.
The way that I feel about all the systems in this game is if this was a beta, I would be extremely excited for the full game. But all the systems in this game feel like they went to about 75%
Hmm.
and then never including I think a lot of the story and world building, and then never quite went to that like polished level where it feels like okay, this is all clicking together. Like
Yeah,
the guns, it felt like there's going to be like, oh yeah, when the full thing releases, there'll be a little bit more crazy abilities that they get that really change the way that the game is played. Or um, even like a lot of the abilities for the slabs, like there were definitely some slabs that I just don't understand how to use, and none of the upgrades really seemed good enough to just like, I don't know about you guys, but I pretty much used shift and sometimes carnesis, but usually aether.
The invisibility.
shift
Yeah.
and Nexus for the whole
Oh,
game.
and
But
next, yeah,
Okay.
I
nexus,
never
yeah.
Yeah.
used anything but shift. Like I would play around with the other ones, but whenever I actually wanted to like get anything done, I never felt like I wanted to use anything but shift and Nexus.
Okay. Yeah, I
And just
really. Yeah. Go for it.
it just felt like there was like with those, it felt like there was going to be like, one or two more of them that just did like something a little bit, like something that just pushed it into like the level where you really needed to spec. But I think because it was so much of a stealth shooter, obviously the one that lets you teleport and like take out multiple enemies with a silenced headshot at once are going to be your best ones.
Yeah. Or you screw up. I mean, that's mine was more like Aether was the oh shit button. Like, oh, I missed, or I shot someone, or I had the wrong gun out. I'll just go invisible, and then everything will reset, and then I can just start over again. So like, it was
Yeah.
teleport to get me to where I need to, and then if I screw up or someone sidebars me, I just go invisible, and then like walk, duck walk away.
And I have the same note on the story, but I'll wait till we get to that section to get deeper into
But
that.
yeah, that said, like it's still like I want to be clear, like it's gonna sound like in a lot of these I'm kind of bagging on the game, and that's I want to say like it's good and I enjoyed the game,
Mhm.
and I just like I said, I feel like there's a lot of really good ideas in this game,
Mhm.
and I feel like there's a lot of unrealized potential in this game. So I'm going to be talking a lot about that as we go through these.
Sure.
It's still good, and it's still I had fun doing
I
this, playing
definitely
this
think
game.
it's worth the
So
price of admission.
Oh
I
yeah.
absolutely,
It just could have there like if they had pushed it a little further, I think it could have been one of the all-time greats just in
yeah,
terms of like the ambition, but it doesn't quite get there. It almost feels like the pandemic or something made them have
Mm,
to
yeah.
really halt the scope of some of the stuff that they were doing in order to release it on time, which is a shame, but
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
maybe or yeah, some aspect of development, or they're just more ambitious than their development cycle allowed them to really execute or
I was
something.
I was gonna say I would also put it back on like you know I, ambitions could like I could see how this game could go to a ambitions trumps all other and like we never see the game because like they could they took forever to
Yeah,
perfectionist their way into making
yeah.
this game.
Exactly. I understand it, and I don't begrudge any of the like. I'm not saying that any of the developers did a bad job on this or anything.
No.
Making games is hard.
Yeah.
I just I see I see what they were trying to do there, and I wish that somehow they had been able to do it. Um, and maybe I'm reading into that, and maybe they
Mm.
executed exactly what they intended to as well. But that's just sort of my read on that on the situation on this game.
Going back into like builds, like did you ever play around? Did you ever have like a fun build versus like your main build, or because like I would assume that the character traits and the trinkets would be like how you kind of change your build. But for me, like I kind of made my perfect build and didn't really do
Oh.
much with it. But like melee was definitely an option if you wanted to go that way, or like dual pistols, which I didn't do very much
Man, I
either.
never used the dual wielding function.
I
I know
had a
you could.
dual I had a dual wielding build with the guns from Dorsey that regenerated your health.
Oh,
So I maxed the damage on those,
ooh,
and so that was like if I'm gonna like just go in and tear shit up, it was like so health regenerates, and then you just up the damage on it, and just go in and just start shooting everybody. That was pretty fun.
Yeah,
okay.
I had like that in a stealth build, and that was pretty much it.
I did play around with Havoc a bit,
Ooh,
and sort of a similar thing. Because I mean, yeah, Havoc just turns you into like an unstoppable wrecking ball.
is
It's
that
very good in
the
PvP as
steroid
well.
one?
Yeah, it's the
Okay,
one from Fia, her
okay.
slab. Um, Especially if you get a few of the upgrades on it that let you do it longer and stuff. It's pretty good. Um, I still, you know, yeah, I guess there was room for experimentation. I guess I felt like I could make builds like that. I wanted more synergies between the aspects of the builds. Um, is kind of what I'm feeling there.
Okay. Oh
trying to
yeah,
express that, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think another like a slight unrealized like I think you like I kind of wish the guns could have like two aspects to them, or like even when you get the super good like sniper rifle, like it's not silenced, so like is
uh,
sniping like a way to like play? Because like
I
I mean
gotta.
I loved the rapier gun, but like it almost turns into like a one shot kill gun that I wanted to like reload as quickly as possible and get all the reload stuff stacked up, but I never did like the stealth the like snipe stuff because I didn't know that it was like a pretty viable
Man,
option.
I gotta say, outside of like a few really fringe situations, that sniper rifle is so bad.
Mm,
And you would
yeah.
expect a sniper rifle to be good, but just like the
Yeah.
objectives this game gives you and the way, like, yeah, like the sniper rifle, I don't think it can even roll with the silenced perk,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah. Well,
I'd have
and
to look that
honestly,
up, but
for me, like, I don't think the shooting is particularly good in
Mm,
this game. I don't think I don't think it really works in any of their games very
I
well.
mm,
agree. I agree with that.
It just is sort of it feels floaty to me, and
mm.
Mm-hmm.
like I rarely want to shoot people. I actually really enjoy the melee stuff in this game. Like it's
Oh,
so
okay.
satisfying sneaking up on somebody and like you know
R1ing
thinking
them.
Oh
yeah,
yeah, that
like
was more what I
that's
was doing.
yeah, and so like in general, like every time I'd get a new gun, it was always like, oh, cool, but like I'm only gonna bust this out if like I need it, and then even then, it's like, just doesn't. I don't know. There's just like something there that just doesn't feel great to me for the shooting, which also furthered me down the stealth line. Like I guess
Yeah.
I'm in a stealth more because I don't want to like get into a big firefight with these guns that I don't completely love.
Did the
Again,
go for it, Steven.
oh, I was gonna say again, I wish that like because there were really only like 3 or 4 um there were more than that, maybe like 7 or 8 mods that just like got better as as they dropped in rarity. And I sort of
Yeah,
wished like as you got into the purple tier, there was like some super weird stuff that like really niche abilities where like you sort of have to stare at it for a minute and go like how do I even use this, and then it clicks in a build and it's like oh man I have a really unique thing now, or I go around and like Nexus enslave everybody to to be my minions, and I
Oh yeah.
make them all fight each other. And they're really, you know, there wasn't really much of that in a way that like I feel like BioShock had sort of really not perfected, but at least like you at least needed to
Zany.
have some of those abilities that BioShock did like what 15 years ago now almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no like they really, if it would be one thing if they were really trying to like pare it down to what felt like the essential magical abilities, but I don't know, just felt like there were some like key ones missing. Like I always go back to thinking about BioShock, like the weird bees one where you threw bees at people, or like the mind control one. There wasn't like a mind control anything, which I think even Dishonored had, right?
Yes,
Hmm.
believe so.
Um,
My build was like I was the hacker guy. Like I had like the speed hack and all that kind of stuff. I loved like turning turrets on people and making like very powerful turrets. But even then, like the like hack mines ability, I was like, oh god, like trying to get enemies to run into mines. Like I don't got time for that.
God,
So like
yeah,
that entire ability chain just means nothing. It's like it's just easier to just shoot them and move on with your life than try and like hack the mine and then use it to your benefit. Like
yeah. And to what Steven was saying, yeah, there were some of those that were just like just bad. And
yeah,
it's okay for there to be sort of suboptimal options in these games, but there's so few options that that it does feel like kind of a waste when one of them is just like not useful. Um in a way that where if there were more and more varied options, then it would be okay for some to be just janky fringe things like hacking
yeah.
mines. Um,
I've used the hacking mines for the uh when you had to go up against um Igor
yeah,
Egon.
Yes.
Igor.
Yeah, Igor. Yeah.
I had to use the hack mines to try to like get silently through that, but
Yes.
almost
Well,
inevitably I would get Juliana
you,
invaded, and then I
you
would.
say had to, but there's ways to get around without hacking
Oh,
them mines.
sure.
Well, yeah, to do it silently, I would always get Juliana, and then it would be like I'd set one off by accident.
Yep. Yeah, the mines definitely worked against you from time to time, and yeah, we're just crazy. So
Mines are really dangerous. It's
yeah,
true.
yeah. So Patrick, did you actually like spec into the melee stuff then with your build? I know there was like the do extra melee damage and like
Yeah,
backstabber and stuff like that.
I was
So
leaning into that.
okay, yeah, it's like
Just because
going.
like I found that more satisfying.
Yeah,
And, yeah. Because they do a good job with that. I think like they're one of the best at like first person like melee stuff
sure.
in those types of like actiony games. Um, yeah, so I was just like, I'm just gonna run with this as much as possible. So it was like oftentimes I was using, you know, melee, and then like I'd have like then a silenced gun.
Yeah.
That's about all I used.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like the shift drop kick. I thought was like, oh, this maybe promotes some pretty fun play, like
I
shift drop
love the
kicked a bunch.
kick.
Um,
It's my favorite thing in the game, honestly.
The kick was
pretty
super
fun.
fun. That's towards the end of the game when I like got like pretty good. I was just exclusively using that because it was you Nexus people and then you get them with the
Yes,
kick
that
five
was
people at once.
pretty
That was
fun.
very fun. That was very good.
Very cool. So then, so unless anybody has any kind of other crazy builds they tried out, I think the game is definitely a lot about the puzzles and like figuring everything out. I'm wondering what your guys' kind of experience was, good or bad, with trying to figure out what the game is setting up in front of you, or at least like with the
Um,
puzzles and stuff.
Well,
I bounced off a lot of the puzzles because with the rewards not being very interesting,
Mm,
I didn't really feel compelled to like there was like that safe that was underneath with like all the sigils, and I tried to do
Oh.
that for a minute, and when I couldn't find the sigil like pretty easily, I was just like, well, I'm just gonna get like a purple ability for this, so I don't really care.
Yeah, I ended up Googling what you get for that, and it's even more disappointing than you think it is.
Yeah, it's like
You get a like a couple thousand residium
Yep.
for opening that chest.
yeah, it's like
Oh
5K.
no!
Yeah,
That's it. It's
I
so bad
yeah,
for how much effort you put into it.
yeah.
That's one of my biggest. There's some actually really good puzzles in this game, and they have no good rewards for solving them for how hard the puzzles are.
Oh my
It's like
Yeah.
god.
you get to do them all, and then you get like a purple mod that could have just dropped off a random visionary if you had just gone and killed the visionary in this level instead of
Mhm.
spending an hour on this puzzle. Or you get freaking residium, which like I don't know about you guys, but after a point I did not need any residium at
Yep.
all.
Once I had my build, what was the point? There weren't like any big ticket. Again, there weren't like those like 80, 90, 100% items where it's like, oh man, this is super out there. But like the gun that shoots clown masks at people that you can only get from the one puzzle, and it's like, oh man, that's worth doing the 8 things for the clown gun. But there wasn't a clown gun. It was just like, oh okay, the weirdest thing I can get is some of these guns that like the heritage gun, which can shoot slugs or a spread, and it's like, well, why would I want that? I have this gun that shoots explosive rounds that I got from a random dude, so
Yeah.
I'm set.
Yeah, I swear this like for instance, I don't know if you guys did in Carl's Bay. There's there's the like robot that you can rebuild by finding all the pieces and handing him
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if you do that whole thing, it takes you the whole like a whole loop
Yep.
of going in there and like using the delivery boxes to get all the stuff you can do to put, and it gives you a purple mod. And
Ugh.
it's like, I swear, there was a point in this game's design where there were fixed drops for things, and that was going to give you a unique mod that you couldn't get anywhere else. But
I
Mm.
for whatever reason, I think that was changed, and I think that now it just gives you a random mod that you could get anywhere else in the game for doing
I
this
thought
puzzle.
for sure there was going to be a way with by like saving the mask salesman that you could go in there and get a mask so you could get into the party without being seen.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought for
Yeah,
sure there was, so that was
yeah,
something that I focused on fairly early, was I got to save the mask guy, and I thought for sure I was going to get some kind of costume that let me put on the mask so I could go into the party and find out why it's called the Devouring of the Lambs party, see what they're doing beyond just the like, the sort of hints at things, to like be able to witness the party go to that next level. And it was like, oh no, you can get a mask which you can get a purple mod.
Yeah.
Do follow all the right steps and be real good, and we'll give you a purple mod.
Man, where are the golden mods when you needed them? Like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what you want. You want the golden mods that do just like the really random, unique, cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was hungry for, I
Although
think.
I did appreciate that like at least everything was randomized, because like there were some puzzles that just got the better of me, and I like Googled it to try and figure it out because it was just so convoluted.
Mhm.
And like the person would just be like, oh, the numbers are 1 2 3 5 or something like that, and I'm like, well, it isn't in my game. So like I at least appreciated that like it's randomized. I'm glad that like me watching someone play and like learning a code wouldn't like spoil it for me. But
Yeah.
Yes,
most of the
but
tutorials were like, yeah, so most, but then trying to figure out how do I do this puzzle is like, okay, so you got to go inside the bunker that Fee is at. You got to go look at all the walls in order to figure out which freaking zodiac symbol is the right one that I click onto the
yep.
monitor. Yeah. And so that's like that there's a give and take to that. So
Well, and
oof.
I guess it's just like I liked the idea that like, oh yeah, you actually have to do it yourself. You can't just look up a guide. You do have to find the thing that's unique to your game, which is cool. Except none of the side content like that just makes it feel less worth it to do a lot of these side quests. I'm
Mm,
sorry to say,
yeah.
Yeah.
because you know it's not like there was a reward meaningful enough that I wanted to Google the answer to get the reward even.
Mhm.
Eventually, I
So
just stopped doing them.
I should have mentioned at the front sort of what my expectations were, because I think a big part when I hear time loop, I think of Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Sure.
Mhm.
Um, and I think a big part of what I enjoy about the time loop games is the ability to really like go into corners and find like unique character stories,
Mm.
to be able to like because of the unique system of the time loop, be able to get like the 1,000-mile view, and then be able to like really like get into some of the like see like, oh, this character's here in the morning and then they're here in the afternoon, or like stumble upon something in the afternoon. And there was a little bit of that, but it ultimately like was never super, it's like developed. Like there's those guys that are trying to break down the wall in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh, what are they after?" So I found a way to like get around to the other side, like early in the morning or like in the afternoon. And it's like, "Oh, they're just after this green mod, or there's like a skull in here, but it doesn't really like, it doesn't really go anywhere." All the people just being like sort of flat NPCs, except for maybe the 6 main characters, 6 or 7. Was I think my biggest disappointment in the game is not being able to go around and, through clever detective work, be able to uncover some of these stories.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
were
there are a few, but they're few and far between for sure.
Yeah, I think we kind of go for it.
I was gonna say some of the ones that I feel like felt like they should give me some information, like particularly the gas puzzle, which is why I'm sort of bringing this up in the puzzle section. Like the gas puzzle, there's this guy who clearly knows Colt and like has some kind of a relationship with him, and there's like a room that he's in, and you solve the gas puzzle, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then you can leave and you don't even get a reward for it. It's like you just don't die. It's like, well,
Well,
wait a minute.
I never
Is there
figured out how to get into the room with that guy. There are like items you can pick up in that room and stuff
Uh,
too. But
yes,
I actually didn't actually solve that one.
so yeah, so I don't know what if I have to come back later or something to do that, but there was a lot of puzzles and stuff that I felt like should have given me like a bigger window into this world, or like learn who some of these like who are all of these eternalists who have decided to live out their life in the, or rather not live out their life on this endless loop. Like who are all these people? And the answer is like, well, they're nobody.
yeah,
You don't,
a lot of them.
they don't really have, personality. Even like some of the, not eternalists, the supreme
Visionaries.
visionaries. Even the visionaries, I sort of wanted a little bit more of like, what are they researching other than the time loop? And if there was something hidden deeper, it like I just sort of missed it. But I wanted to be able to like figure out like, okay, what do they want? What do they
Yeah.
have going on? And I just, again, it felt like it was like 70% done, not like all the way to those like deep story things, to solving these side puzzles to be able to get deeper mysteries or deeper stories.
Yeah. My white whale eventually became the Yerva, like trying to figure out the
Oh.
answer to all of the Yerva. And I only like I mean, that was the one part that really frustrated me about like randomized questions, because it's like, okay, I gotta know which question goes with which answer, and like I think the 1 to 8 was always the same, but like, oh god, what is this talking about this, or is this talking about this? Like, so with scattered throughout Carl's Bay are all these notes that are like, get to know Carl's Bay or get to know the island better, and like it was like, okay, so Carl's Bay used to be a fishing village or something like that, but like when you get to the Carl's Bay question, it's like, what used to be Carl's Bay? And it's like, no, the fishing village is used for a different question. And I was just like really frustrated. But that was kind of my window into potentially something deeper, was like trying to get all the answers to the questions of what the Euro was. But, like we said, the rewards for that would have just been like,
No reward.
You don't get rewards for I did the year like
Oh,
you do it
man.
and it doesn't give you anything.
Oh dear God.
It says like, oh yeah, this is a automaton and it still works.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
part of an achievement if you do all of. I
Okay.
think it's part of doing all the Charlie's Games achievement,
Ah,
but like
yeah.
it's yeah. There's no like item reward or in-game like reward for doing that one.
Oh dear
It's
God.
yeah.
That pissed me off.
Ugh. But yeah, that was at least somewhat interesting as far as like, okay, trying to understand like, where do people, where these people came from, and you get it through this story with like the rocket, right? Of like, oh, there was Colt been here forever, like, or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the one thing that did strike me, especially starting at the beginning, was I just kind of like really jived with Colt's character, or like his kind of attitude, and then you learn like there's a little bit more depth of like, there's other Colts and how long has Colt been here. So like I think the characters, some of the characters are well implemented, and I was interested to kind of get their stories and interactions a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the performances
Oh
are
my God.
really good in this
The
game.
the voice actors for Colt and Juliana, as well as the people who wrote their banter dialogue, deserve medals.
Mm,
Yeah,
It's
they're
yes,
it's
so
like the
good.
best part of the whole game.
I think
yes,
they 100% deserve at least a purple upgrade.
At least a purple upgrade for each
one
of
purple
those
trinket.
A
Yeah,
artists.
random,
Yeah.
A
random
purple
purple upgrade
trinket.
for all.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
But it
yeah.
was extremely, extremely good.
Also, like this game does something that I don't see a lot of video games doing. It let the protagonist be like really genuinely funny, and
Mm,
not in like
yes.
a zany way or anything. Like Colt's just like a funny guy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like he just tells jokes and has a sense of humor. And I I was thinking about it, and there's not actually like that many video game protagonists with that trait,
Yeah.
which is
No,
kind of
they'll have to be so dark.
Yeah.
Super serious.
yeah,
Yeah.
like even when sometimes funny things happen to or around them, or they do funny things, but few of them have like a sense of humor, you know?
Yeah.
And Colt just has a wonderful sense of humor, especially when he's talking to Juliana.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like when he screws up or like he doesn't take himself too seriously, he's just off the cuff and
I mean,
yeah.
even just the way you're introduced to Colt at the very beginning of the game, just waking up on the beach and him just be like, "Fuck." Fuck," yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
way he's like cursing and stuff on the beach, and he's just so disoriented. I was just immediately laughing at
Yeah.
at the delivery of those lines and everything.
Just immediately like, oh, I know how that feels.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I feel that guy. Let's
Yeah.
figure out what's going on.
Or even the like writing on the walls, like talking back to you. Like there's almost
Yeah.
like this other character, but it's like Colt's like, well, what the fuck am I gonna do with this? And it's like, shoot her crazy or something like that. And it's yeah,
Yeah,
just like the writing on the walls was like, am I the only one can see these? And they're like, yep, 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 yep. And it's like, okay, I can see what they're going for here.
Do we get an explanation of what that is? I know that's like what Igor's like research was into.
kind of. I mean, no, but I always well, Igor's research was like voices from the future. I think that
Mm,
the writing on the wall is actually voices from Colt's past. I think these are supposed to be a representation of his memories that he's lost. You know, just he's been through this so
Yeah.
many times.
Although he does, Igor does talk about it being like the voices like represent themselves
okay.
as like hallucinations of writing, which is like, oh, okay, so that's what this is. And then I expected it to again go that step further, where you learn like a little bit more. Like there's something that if you let his research, like if you don't interfere, I wanted to see the loops resolve, the like tasks resolve.
Mm, yes.
And
I'm
that was something that I
yeah.
sort of felt like never happened because the way that the time progressed, you could sit in hiding out in Alexis's party forever, and we're never gonna get to like what is the devouring of the lambs. Like we're never
Mm.
you never
Well,
get to like sit around and witness it unless I'm wrong. Is there can you wait long
you
enough?
found the banquet room, right? In the party?
Hmm.
With the mannequins hanging.
No, with the gore.
Um,
Um,
Or it was
There's
like
like
in
a
the attic.
I found the
no,
kitchen.
not
Okay.
Igor. Like I mean, there's a buffet table that's just covered in human viscera,
Oh.
like 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 fountains, like fondue fountains of blood and stuff.
Oh, but see, I think that was the same room with like the mannequins
Mm.
hanging, and I was like sort of waiting for.
I don't think I actually saw that. I think I was either sneaking around or trying to get people by themselves.
Yeah, my first time in Alexis's mansion, I actually ended up just killing everybody in it slowly,
Yeah.
and then I wandered around and explored the place while it was empty. Uh, yeah.
I did really hate his music. I had to immediately find how to turn that shit off because
Okay.
like
While we're talking about characters, I did love how much of a tool Alexis Dorsey was.
Yeah.
yes.
Some of the visionaries got a bit more characterization than others, but Alexis is just such a delightful, despicable man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so crazy, and I think this goes a little bit back to the puzzles of like I think I went into this like trying because I had read a couple reviews talking about like, and I do agree that the game, like when you want to turn on the objectives and just go to the objectives, it definitely holds your hands a little bit too
Mm.
much, and maybe that's for the better because wandering around trying to figure these things out by yourself is mind numbing and painful. But
Yeah, but yeah, I do feel like there was just like a certain point where like this is the way to do it.
yeah, yes,
Like this is the
Yeah.
solution. And
Um.
that's
mhm.
fine, but also it did I don't know, did cramp my style a bit.
hmm
I yeah. Do we if we're gonna start talking about sort of the solution and the
sure,
greater narrative in the golden loop here? Yeah.
yeah,
My biggest disappointment and sort of the biggest negative subversion of my expectations was that there was in the end just one perfect loop. There was not a way to do it any other way than the manufactured way that is the answer um, that the main quest steps you through. I
yeah,
really thought that I thought that kind of the promise of this loop would be that there would be a lot of different ways you could steer these people and potentially multiple solutions.
Mhm.
mm,
And I was pretty disappointed to find out that it's just like, nope, this is the answer.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I think it would have been, and again, this is probably too ambitious to really realize, but I just thought it would have been so interesting if there was like, it's like, oh, you read and like, yeah, Harriet is only like she goes into hiding for the rest of the day. But what if there was a way to lure her out of hiding? What if
yeah,
there was, what if you could manipulate things so that Charlie and Fia get in a fight and Charlie ends up going to the party? Like, there's just like there's all of these vectors by which it would have been so interesting to get to bounce these characters off of each other more. You'd get to learn more about the characters and how they interact with each other. And then,
mm-hmm.
you could potentially I wanted a puzzle where I tried to fit together different permutations of people throughout the day until I
Yeah,
found one that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. My
and
my like my solution was like, oh, I'll just wait. Like killing Juliana when I get invaded counts as killing her towards like the visionary because it pops up at the end of the screen. So I was like, oh, I don't have to like. And then I finally get to the end of the game and I'm like, okay, I've killed everybody. I've been invaded. I've killed that Juliana. I should be done now. And then it's like I go in and click the information and it's like, no, I didn't. Like there's a Juliana in the game that you have to go to and that's the end game. And I'm just like, oh, well, I didn't have any sense for like kind of what that was or until I turn on the objectives and I just like go here, do this, go here, do this. Okay, you're done. And so
yeah,
yeah, so yeah, I mean I had gotten to the end and I was like, okay, just kind of tell me it. But yeah, I agree that very much
yeah. I
very
was hoping
much
for something a little more open ended. And
yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. It was enjoyable enough, but the game is way more on rails. Uh,
Yeah.
as far as completing. the main objective of breaking the time loop than I hoped or believed that it would be.
Yeah, if you just want to goof about, there's a million ways to do things.
Hmm.
But if you want to progress, like there's a way to progress, and
Yeah.
that was. I don't know why I expected it to be different. I guess it's because of that it feels like Dishonored, where like Dishonored does have like more of this like here's your objective, good luck, figure it out, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and because it sort of felt like that, I was expecting more of that vibe. But I guess it makes sense that it's like here's the order you have to do things. I don't know, you guys that like enjoy time loop games more, like how do you feel about the time looping here?
It feels like unrealized potential to me. I feel like we didn't actually get to exploit the time loop for what it was.
Hmm.
I feel like we didn't get to really try and there wasn't really a way to like change things and have different events play out. There's just kind of
Yeah, the
like there's
sort
a
of
couple, but they're
the
inconsequential in the greater objectives of the game.
the whole thing about the time loop is about like the setups, and it's about like setting something up so you can pay it off later. If that is either like doing something one loop in order to bring it with you, through like doing something one loop so then you can achieve something and then to bring it back so you have it for the next loop, or something as simple as what so I thought the first time before I finished the tutorial that the Residium was going to be, rather than something that something that I could like spray on an item so that I could fix it between loops. So something where
Interesting.
like I could, rig this thing to explode and then put some residium on it so that the next time that so my trap is then set up between the loop.
Mm.
That's what I thought. Like, I see a fan that was giving, before I had unlocked that power, that was giving me like, the residium thing, which as it turns out was just going to be something that I harvested.
Mm.
But I thought it was
Yeah.
like, okay, so this fan, I can choose to like leave that and have that be part of my puzzle. Like, so, okay, that might be some way to like kill Wenji in here, but using it by fixing this fan or by
Mm.
unsticking this fan from time, or, something like that. Sort of more like a point and click adventure game
Mm.
where it's like, oh yeah, I can put the fan above the water so when she steps in this puddle, then I'll electrocute, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
something like that. There was not a lot of that. It was pretty much like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to figure out where they are, um and then you got to shoot them.
Yep.
Yeah.
The closest thing to like a puzzle I
Yeah.
feel like was was in Carl's Bay.
Yeah, Frank. Like
Yeah, the fireworks. There's a little bit. I was actually talking
Frank's the only
about.
one you kill like indirectly, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
What's the name of the
Harriet?
woman in Harriet?
A cult
Harriet,
leader.
yeah.
Yeah.
Harriet, there's this way to kill her that I figured out where if I snipe the button to one of the doors on,
Interesting.
I can open the door and she'll come out to investigate it. So then I walk around the outside of the building and I have a clear shot at her from outside the building, and that way I can kill her without the cutscene starting, so the guy doesn't die to the gas.
Mm.
So that was the closest thing to like sort of that sort of setup and payoff kind of thing, where it was like, okay, but even that was like I have to do it all in the morning,
Yep.
and she dies, and there's no other way to like nearly kill her and then have her, you know, have everybody show up in the
Like
find a way into the place where they all go into hiding and kill them there, or there
God,
wasn't
I just like oh God, it's like Harriet's friends with Frank. There's no way I can trick Frank into like convincing her
Yes.
to come to the fireworks show or something.
Mm. Yes.
I can't even go to the fireworks show. I really wanted to like go to Carl's Bay or not Carl's Bay, the
First
Frank
red.
uh
Yeah. First
first
red.
Priestad Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I wanted to go there at night and see Frank setting off the fireworks, but it's just
Mm.
closed at night, and that was a bummer.
Yeah, the idea that like there were places where you literally couldn't go, where it was like,
Depending on
there's
yeah.
nothing for you here.
I was really surprised when certain areas were just closed at certain times of day. That again, it sort of broke the idea that like this is a loop and it's a playground and you should try and solve and figure out what you have to do to break it within, these, because then it felt like it almost broke the promise of that playground by not letting me go everywhere at every time. And again, like it feels like maybe a longer development cycle. I bet you they would have liked to have fleshed that out a bit more. Um,
Yeah.
it has that feel to it anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think my my approach to Harriet was like that was the only time. And yeah, I guess the promise of like maybe I should be switching out my character trinkets depending on what I'm doing. Like, do I turn on the hacky one to go kill Igor because I have to like dismantle all these mines, or do I put on immunity to gas so that I can get to Harriet? Like, it's like, oh, maybe I should be changing these between sections of the loop. Um, but you didn't have to. Like, you could just
ooh,
stealth or go
yeah.
invisible or yeah.
Well, another thing, like, yeah, you didn't have to. Also, changing things out is kind of a pain in the ass just from their menu
Mm,
interface.
yes.
Uh, this game desperately, especially if that was sort of more of the exploratory direction they wanted their gameplay to go, desperately wants a loadout system where you can save loadout.
Mm,
Yeah.
And
yes.
then I think it would be way more satisfying if you have like, all right, I know the golden loop. Here's my morning loadout. Here's my noon loadout. Here's my afternoon loadout. Here's my night loadout.
Yeah.
And you can just
Totally.
like press a button and be like ready to go. And that adds to more of that like I'm carefully planning this, and now it's time to execute this, and I have everything ready to go. And it's like you can still do that, but man, swapping everything out is a bummer when you really don't have to complete everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sort feature just didn't sort the way I wanted it to. And
Yeah.
like just yeah, I think the UI is definitely a pain point for a lot of players.
It wasn't
So
so bad that I was like hating
yeah,
on it or anything, but it was just like not didn't quite facilitate the type of gameplay that I felt like I wanted, you know.
yeah.
Maybe that's
I almost think
expectations.
yeah, there's like a couple things that I just kind of want in every game now, and it's like photo mode is just a given. Just give people photo mode, which I don't know if this game even have a photo mode, and how
First
awesome
person games typically
typically.
kind of because of the way that first person games are rendered,
Yeah,
it's harder to let you like pop out a Colt and take pictures because
sure.
Colt's body probably isn't rendered most of the time
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. But like, and I think we've brought this up several times this year. It's just like, give me a loadout, give me a quick way to swap between whatever I'm doing. I just give me a loadout button, and I think people just want that in games more and more. And if you're gonna have a crafting system or different items or different weapons for me to swap in and out of, give me an ability to do that at the
Uh,
click of a
if
button.
if your game is build based, it's probably a good idea to let people save builds and swap between them easily. Bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we think of the overall length? I think I was actually going through counting my hours on Twitch. And I think I got up to like 25 hours, and I definitely felt like I was getting long in the tooth. Like I said, I turned on the objective buttons and just kind of knocked out the last 10% of the game in like an hour. So
So
yeah,
I didn't finish the game
yeah,
because I bounced off basically once I figured out that there's like a golden loop, then there's just a way to do it, and I was like,
Fair.
yeah,
I wanted more of a playground feel, and that's kind of how it feels at first, where it is sort of like this experimental, like play around with things until you can find your own way. And then when I realized that wasn't really what it was, I was like, oh, okay, this is the loop game I was worrying it was,
mm,
um, where it's like this is how you do it,
yeah,
and that's just a personal thing for me. Like loop games get to me very quickly because I don't like repeating things like that.
yeah,
Um, I will say overall though, I appreciate that it's like the way that there's like the morning, afternoon, night, like, and once you're in a zone, like you have as much time as you need in that zone.
hmm
which I think is really smart because at the very least I wasn't stressed about time like I am in other
Yeah,
types of time loop games.
yeah.
But
There not being a ticking clock was a smart move.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate that. But it's still, and so I thought because of that, it would be enough for me to be like, you know what, I can still enjoy a time loop game. But I was like, oh nope, it's still the thing I don't want. But so yeah, I don't. My play time is not very accurate to
Sure.
finishing the game.
Yeah.
I had kind of a similar. I didn't feel like the game really overstayed its welcome. I was pretty, by the time that I got to that last loop and I was like, okay, I know everything. I just got to knock this loop out.
Hmm.
Um, I felt like my time had been pretty well used. I wasn't playing without objective markers on or anything. I was kind of doing whatever I wanted, but I was also following the prompts and
Yeah.
after a point, especially once I realized that that was the one way to that I could actually finish the game.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say, like, the game speaks to like the I don't know, the presence of randomized loot drops and everything speaks to sort of the game having longevity beyond finishing that loop to like go back and
Mm-hmm.
get more gear and and man, as soon as I finished that golden loop, I was done. I just my motivation to like go back and try to solve the puzzles I hadn't solved and stuff. Uh, man, that so for that aspect, I didn't feel like the game ultimately had a lot of replay appeal to me in a strange way. Um,
Especially if that's part of their core design.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that said, I didn't feel like the core game was overlong, but I also so much of it is player driven, how quickly or slowly you get to those objectives, I guess.
Yeah.
You could probably sprint through it pretty quick if you just weren't interested in exploring at all, which,
Yeah.
I was, and I think we all were to a point.
I played it a little. I don't know how many hours I put into it. I definitely played it a little bit after after I finished the golden
Yeah.
loop. I kind of was hoping for maybe a little bit more. Maybe naively a little bit more going on. So I wanted to I put a little bit more time. I did some time invading as Juliana just to see if there was anything that I could get randomized from those drops, if there was anything left to sort of get out of it. And then, after a few of those you quickly realize that, oh, okay, it's just all going to come down to
The story is
um
the story.
mhm
Yeah.
mhm
It's
Yeah, I don't going beyond, but I know we didn't really talk about the ending or anything.
Yeah.
Uh, I would like to touch on that because
Sure.
to me, I don't know how you guys feel, but the ending was kind of a big anticlimax to me.
Yeah.
I found it a bit confusing and extremely unsatisfying in a way that makes me very sad.
it like everything else, it feels like about 70% of an ending.
Mm.
Like, felt like a
Yeah,
good
maybe
climax.
even less.
You get up there to the end, and then it's like, now I want to learn some of the secrets. Like, tell me something.
Nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
Let's loop.
no.
Let's loop. And it's just like, oh, wow. Yeah, I was telling Patrick, like, it definitely felt like a big nothing burger at the end.
oh
I'm
God,
like,
it's just well, I just wanted a little something like you break the loop, you wake up on the beach again, the sky's all fucked up, but you don't get any information about the consequences of your actions.
yep.
Like honestly, if Juliana didn't show up at the end there, like I don't I wouldn't have even had an idea if like is everybody I killed in that last loop just dead?
Yeah, did
Or
you
did
do
we
it?
start over one last time and we're not in a time loop anymore? Like I don't and I still don't know for sure. I think everybody's like alive and you're just not looping anymore. But also the world might be fucked. I don't know. The sky looked weird.
Mm.
Uh
Yeah.
but like there's no context for what the consequences of your decision. Like everybody, the whole thing is like, oh, choosing to end the loop is like a big deal in
Yeah.
the world of this game. Juliana spends the whole time trying to just convince you not to do it and that the loop is great and it's better than what you're going to find outside of it. and you get no sense of the consequences of that decision at
Yeah.
all at the end of the
I,
game.
with all that setup, I needed to know that I can appreciate a game that doesn't want to reveal what's going on. If they want to leave that a mystery of what the world is, that's fine. But don't spend so much time setting up and teasing the idea that like, oh, what's going on outside of this loop,
Right.
to then just not even give us not even a hint at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is was extremely extremely frustrating, because it was I wanted a hint that like, oh yeah, the world is all screwed up, and
Yeah.
nobody's left alive, like the world has ended, like you've outlived the sun, and everything, now that you've destroyed the loop, everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted just there was sort of like, I either wanted see, I made the right decision, the loop was a hell of our own making, or I wanted to, oh my god, what have I done? The loop was like the best way that we could possibly exist in this world, and I'm a
Right.
fool. And I didn't get either of those. I don't know if it was a good or bad decision to end the loop. I know Juliana's mad at me, I guess,
Yeah.
and that she's still alive. I yeah.
But like, you're closer to her now. Like, I don't know. Like your
Well,
relationship is somewhat repaired by the end, or
well, okay. I mean, I guess there is a choice. Did you not shoot her in the head?
I tried to. I don't know that
Okay,
I. Yeah.
I guess I misspoke when I said I didn't play it all. I did do the golden loop twice to see what happens when
Ah.
you shoot her and what happens when you don't.
Okay.
Um, and if you choose not to shoot her, like she seems very confident that you're going to do, then you stay in the loop and you just loop back to morning, and now you're friends with Juliana, and you're gonna
Yeah.
be you two are going to enjoy the loop together,
Yeah.
consequence free, killing each other, having fun, being, I guess, spoiler alert, being father daughter together, and now that you both know who each other is and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and then if you do shoot her in the head, you wake back up on the beach, the sky's all fucked up. You get the sense that the loop is in fact broken. Juliana appears on the beach because she makes it very clear that if you break the loop, she wakes up before you. She's gonna run to the beach and shoot you in the head,
Mm.
uh, for real, killing you. And then she gets there and she doesn't have the nerve to actually finish you off, and she runs off and disappears.
Mm.
Those are the two endings of Deathloop. Uh,
I don't like either.
they're bad. They're
Yeah.
both bad and unsatisfying.
Who are these
And both
tortured
tell you,
fathers that
yeah,
now
both tell
suddenly
you
want to
nothing
tell the
about the
story?
world. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but
Well, I think Steven brought up a little bit of too of like I didn't do any kind of invasion multiplayer stuff. I think that's one aspect we haven't talked about too much.
But that was my favorite part of the game.
Ah, okay.
thought it
Talk
was
about
really
that.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting the way it was handled, where it was actually pretty hard to be Juliana most of the time, because you're going up against somebody who's probably better kitted, and just like you didn't know where they were. Um,
And they have three
Obviously,
lives. Yeah.
yeah, and they have multiple lives, and so I liked that challenge. Um, and I don't know, like, and they really want to fight for, you know,
Yeah.
they're in the middle of the
yeah,
loop, so it's like there's this desperation there that's not in any other kind of like. Closest thing I can think of is like in Dark Souls when you have an
hmm
invader.
Hmm.
But like in Dark Souls, it's like, okay, well they killed me. I go back to
Near a spawn fire.
my respawn fire, and I gotta go find my my souls or whatever. But it's like kind of whatever. But this is like, I was in the middle of my my golden
Golden
loop, and
loop.
you
Yeah.
fucked it up.
the the invading is the best part, just being on both sides of it, because when you get invaded and you're in the middle of something important, it really raises the stakes in a way, which is like, god, I am fighting for my life now.
Yeah,
yeah,
I have to make this work.
yeah. I have to pull out all the stops to like stay alive and kill this Juliana because I cannot afford to die here. Yeah, and so it's like, yeah, it's just like this desperate like cat and mouse game that I haven't experienced in another game before that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely the most like novel gameplay experience. And yeah, like the closest analog, as you guys said, it's like Invasions in Dark Souls is the
Yeah.
best way I could describe it. But yeah, because of the context of this game, I like how sort of it feels the stakes are very high from the cult side of thing, but like we said, cult also has a lot of things stacked in his favor in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. At the same time, I liked how sort of disposable it felt as Juliana. You get popped as Juliana, and you're just like, oh, all right, I'll
Yeah,
requeue.
I
yeah,
guess
whatever.
I'm gonna. I guess I'll just wait another 25 minutes for.
Well, and well, I guess the queue times, yeah. I guess
Yeah.
I mostly
Yeah,
played in the first 2 weekends, and the queue times weren't terrible.
Mm.
Um, it was mostly like maybe 2 or 3 minutes between pops, which
they could be
wasn't too
pretty
bad.
bad though, because it's like, and I don't blame anyone for this, but people would just get to the point where like they would turn off their online
Yeah,
because they don't want to have their last run ruined.
I turned it off for my golden loop.
Mm.
Didn't want to deal with it for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
And that speaks to like, again, is that part of the design of like, okay, I have these like 3 lives, and like, is the point like the stakes get higher and higher as I waste lives, like, and there's, the stakes get higher and higher when Juliana jumps in, like, is that what it's about, like raising stakes mid loop? Because otherwise they were disposable. Like I would jump off a canyon just to see what I would do, like just to see what would kind of happen, because those things were kind of disposable as I'm like running out, and like fleeing an area. But like, is that the design of like, oh, we wanted there to be really high stakes, and for the most part there wasn't.
Yeah, it's almost like Giuliano was like the way they had stakes.
Yeah,
The
they
way
like,
Yeah.
they had stakes.
yeah,
'Cause,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
otherwise it's just like, oh well, I guess try again.
yeah, I'll also acknowledge like it felt like the stakes were getting high. In some ways, that was almost it was a well executed illusion. Like the stakes weren't really, there was something more dangerous in your world all of a sudden, but the stakes were the same, and you just reloop, and it was
yeah,
yeah. So, but I still thought that the dynamic was well executed. It was sort of almost like a magic trick how tense that got all of a sudden.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I ran into some really clever cults like doing
Oh,
it too. Yeah, just like
interesting.
people coming up with really interesting ways to like
Cover their
deal with
ass.
it. Yeah, like
Yeah,
turtle up or
Oh
like
yeah.
or even just like go looking for you like really quickly, because like you kind of expect them to hide and everything, and then they would,
then they jump
like,
you.
yeah, and then they jump you, and so yeah, like it was really interesting experience. I know Kev, when we did it, um,
Yeah.
when you invaded, like as a cult, I basically like hid and started like setting a bunch of traps in hopes that you would just like I don't
Wander
know, get
into them.
offed by like a hacked turret or something. And I like set some mines. So yeah, there's just like a bunch of ways to handle that, and so it's almost like there's an element of that like multiplayer is just like give me a game that's like this.
Yeah,
This is just the game.
I did find it a little bit frustrating the way how difficult it was to actually invade a friend's world
Yeah.
mm.
unless you were like at the right time. It's like you got to be ready to go, when they are right at the beginning of a portion of their loop, and and it was just like that so very rarely happened with only like 4 or 5 of us playing the game.
Mm.
Yeah,
That
there were a few times where I was just sitting in there like refreshing the list of friends' names. Like, come on,
Yeah.
someone start
I
a new
want to do
map.
it. I want to do it. I want to come get you.
That was too bad. I kind of wish it would just let you like queue for friends only, and just it would throw you as soon as somebody was available for that, rather than
Ooh.
having to like wait for their name to light up and then try it while their name is
Oh
still lit up.
yeah,
That was like kind of a
that would be
bummer.
really great. It's like a friend
Even
pre-queue.
that, I mean, the friend queue could take hours, but
Yeah. Yeah, depending on loop length.
yeah.
Well, cool.
How many
Anything
friends you
else
have?
before kind of final thoughts? Any other parts of the game we didn't kind of
Uh,
discuss?
I would like to touch on the world building a little
Sure.
bit. I know we talked a bit about that in the narrative and how aspects of it felt sort of incomplete. One of the interesting things that I've been seeing discussed online is there's a lot of compelling evidence that this actually takes place in the same world as Dishonored.
Okay.
Yeah, it must with all
It
those
has to,
abilities.
right? I mean, yeah, and the implication is that like you essentially you get all your magic powers in Dishonored from this entity called the Outsider,
Okay.
and the implication is that the anomaly that fuels the loop in Deathloop has at least similar origins to this outsider character from the Dishonored games. And
Okay.
that's how like Wenji was able to harness that, and that's why the abilities are the same or similar, because they're literally it's the same power source and the same like entity that was powering Dishonored. There's a few other things. The pistol that Juliana pulls out at the very end of the game, for you to like have your standoff with
Oh
her.
yes.
Those are just like straight out of the Dishonored games.
Mm,
Like that's where you open a box identical to that to get your pistol out at the beginning of Dishonored 2, which really stood out to me because I just started replaying Dishonored 2.
mm.
There's a few other references to like the Empire and other things if you get into like the spies from the mainland puzzles and
Ah.
stuff. But
Okay.
I just thought that was kind of an interesting dynamic, and I get that they wanted to play coy with that. It would have been kind of cool to even see that expanded on, or I don't know. Again, like
Yeah.
Steven said, almost 70%. It's like it was clearly intended to be more of an Easter egg than something that actually impacted the narrative or context of the story being told in Deathloop. But an interesting uh, an interesting wrinkle in that world building for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
I
The one thing about world building that I thought was again kind of interested to get people's thoughts on was just like everybody besides the visionaries are just like faceless henchmen, like who are
golly,
all
yeah,
wearing masks and like I don't know, like I guess I think this is a little bit less serious, and so like just having random enemies that you just kind of fight through. They're all faceless enemy, faceless minions. Like kind of goes with it, but like yeah, I don't know if it's like supposed to be that there's some consequences or there isn't, and they don't take themselves too seriously either. But like the mask just like turns it into very gamey as opposed to like living in a
yeah,
world.
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
another kind of interesting thing about the loop is I feel like I think I have a pretty good handle on it, but it's not clear and kind of confusing at first who knows that they've been looping for a long time and who doesn't. And
Yeah.
it's ultimately just you figure like just Colt and Juliet, like everybody else thinks that this is the first day of the time loop.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, and I don't understand why that is.
Yeah, it's not
I
really
guess
clear to me either.
it just like erases their memories in a way that is ill-defined, but doesn't affect Juliana and Colt for reasons that I also don't know.
Again, it felt like there was going to be something that you learned, which is like, oh yeah, something bad happened, and we've wiped the memory because the world is over and we don't want people to remember that. And
Yeah.
every so often, like Colt remembers and they have to do this dance to like stop him from literally ending the world or something like that. But we just never got if that information is sort of intended or what. We just never got it.
Yeah. So that was yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I
but as
think.
Go
Oh,
for it. No,
sorry,
go
as
for it.
far as the aesthetic side of the also this game is looks awesome. I don't think
oh
we really
yeah,
talked about that, but like
Yes.
holy shit,
incredible looking.
the art direction of this game is so cool.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah,
game is stylish and cool, and I just wanted to mention that too. Like
Yeah.
It is, and that does like sort of lead into like one of these things that I always take issue with honestly this company's games. Like everyone's always like they're the world building, and I'm like I don't know if it's world building as much as it's just like environment design. Like
Yeah,
it's
dude, I think it's art direction. It's like character
exactly
and environment design more so than even the like the stories being written
yeah
or
because the
anything.
world like we don't know anything about the world. Like what are you talking about world building? Like
Yeah,
it's
no, there wasn't there was barely any world building in terms of like who are these people? Where does this come from? You know, like what can we learn about the larger world? Like, is this our world? Is is the other is the like the is it the Russians that are like running this? Is this like a post Cold War thing? Is this like an alternate 1960s? We don't know anything about the world, but
yeah
we can glean a lot from like it's everything that we're it's just a Rorschach test of their art direction
Yeah.
to come up with our own narrative
mhm,
for what this world is.
yeah and like they they do like the art direction's so good like
Hmm.
and it is with all of their games and like when you're in these environments like they feel lived in and intricate and everything but again like that's just like really good like level design and art direction and it's like yes there's like stuff you can read or whatever but it's often about like character development and not necessarily like world lore. I don't know. It's just something I always take issue with, particularly their games because that's the big thing that people like seem to like latch onto with their stuff, and it's like,
I think
yeah,
people don't know what world building is sometimes.
yeah, and it's just like, yeah, they're very good and like they feel alive, but like that's I don't know. I guess I
But
just think of something different when I think of world building.
well, I guess there's narrative world building, and then there's like the world building in the construction of the actual world you're interacting with like the
Mm,
environments and the level design,
yeah.
Yeah.
which I would not call world building in my understanding of that word, but I think that sometimes people conflate those two.
Right, because it's like it's the game world, right? So it
Yeah,
Yeah.
feels like, oh, this is world building, and it's like, well, no, this is like really good level design and really
yeah.
good art direction,
Yeah.
It's like this is the world you're playing in, and it was built, I guess, but
and right,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like all of the like I would kill to just have like a Deathloop poster because like if you don't know what it is, it still just looks like a really rad like
yeah,
60s
yeah.
like
the
movie
aesthetic is just
poster.
amazing.
Yeah, this is
Oh
like they
God,
really hit it
yes.
right. Yeah.
Oh man, like I didn't like how tied the cutscenes were to like the perfect loop and everything, but man, those animated cutscenes
Yes.
Yeah,
that show like
well,
all the kills and stuff that you need for the perfect loop, those were so cool.
Did anyone
Yes.
else have issues with the frame rate on those?
Hmm.
Um,
No,
okay.
no, I didn't.
It
Interesting.
must have been something with my monitor settings or something like that.
huh?
Mm.
The like refresh rate I think was mismatched between my monitor and the PlayStation. So
Uh,
Oh,
it
weird.
was like super glitchy and it was like, man, I would have expected these to look much nicer.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought
yeah,
they
I
looked
wonder
really
if there was
cool.
like a refresh rate
Yeah.
issue.
That
I've
must
encountered
be
that some with like having it set at like a different like hertz or whatever than
Yeah.
Mm,
the display. But that does remind me because I do want to say some more good things about this game.
yeah.
Um, is that like I didn't run into any like issues like technically,
No,
Mm. Yeah.
nothing
no,
like.
and I know that shouldn't be a thing to like laud.
Yeah.
This, but it
But
feels like this day and age I should point out
yeah.
this game just worked great
um
right out of the box.
I did not have that
Huh,
experience.
Really?
really?
Interesting.
Ah,
I had a couple of multiple times it would happen where I was in the menus and I would be
Ooh.
like looking at something
Yeah.
in the menu and then it wouldn't let me leave the menu all the way. And so I would have to hard boot the
oh,
system down or close the game and then open it back up. And in a time loop game where then I'd have to
that's
like
not
start
good at
that
all.
section of the loop over, that was really annoying. And especially because it was it was like silly things like I would be in the menu like trying to look at trying to like switch a weapon or something or look at a map or no it was looking at an objective. I'd be looking at an objective and then it would be like I would close all the menus but it would be like waiting for one more menu to close.
Mm.
Huh.
But that other than that that was the only issue that I had but that was a
Wow, yeah.
pretty
Pretty serious
obnoxious
issue.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
pretty
Yeah.
obnoxious
awful.
issue to
Wow.
run into.
Okay, well,
Um,
I guess I speak for myself on that regard.
Sure.
yeah,
I did have like a Juliana fall through the world, or like a NPC fall through the world. I was like, oh, okay, like it doesn't
Does it
really
count as
affect
a
me.
kill?
Yeah, yeah. It was like didn't really affect me. Like I guess this is supposed to be serious. Maybe they have to like hard reboot or something. But yeah,
It's a feature.
yeah. There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just used the ninth slab as just open hole in world, and character fell through it.
Oh, you say that as a joke, but that would be
That would be
amazing.
really cool. Yeah, I do want a
Amazing.
game, like a game that's like this, where your character knows they're in a game, and so all their powers are about
Like hacking the game.
Yes.
messing up
Like,
the game
what
would
if
be
there
so
was
cool.
what if there was a slab that gave you the powers of that game's Superliminal? Where you
Oh
can
my
like
god.
Oh,
push
Yes.
things up and make
God.
them big.
Whoa,
Like,
Yeah.
That'd be
oh,
awesome.
that would be
Just like,
rad.
yeah, you fall through the map.
Be insane.
Yeah.
one that gives you a bunch of pop-up ads. It keeps opening your menus over and over again. There, now it's a feature.
Yeah. There you go.
That's how they attack you, because like the bad guys in the game are also equipped with powers.
Hmm.
So it's like you'll be mid-fight, and then they'll shoot an ability at you, and it opens up your like menu.
You just
And
have
you're
to
just like,
exit
"Ah,
out of
crap."
Windows as quickly
You're
as
like,
possible.
fuck, I have to open. It just
Yeah.
minimizes the game to desktop.
Yeah, son of a
Shit.
bitch.
Well, cool. Let's wrap up with our final thoughts. Just kind of give people like a 30-second to a minute, kind of condense it all down, recommendations and all that kind of stuff.
Do we have to wrap? My name is Steven, and I'm here to say Deathloop's a game I liked to play.
There you go.
There
That's a
we
good
go.
wrap.
That's great. That's I think Steven's starting us off. He's gonna continue that rap for the next
Gonna lay down some more sick
40,
rhymes.
45.
That's all I got. That's all I prepped. But I enjoyed playing it. I just wish that I enjoyed it so much. I wish there was more. I think I end up saying this a lot in these. Is that like I really enjoyed playing it. I thought that there was a lot of stuff that they did really well, which is why some of the things where it just didn't feel like they went all the way hurt so bad.
Hmm.
It hurts. It hurts when you are like, "Oh, this is so good. I love this. I want to get really deep into this. Oh, but there isn't anything." They gave us a sandbox, but it was actually really shallow. I thought it was a sandbox going in, and turns out it was
Yeah.
just a litter box.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the rewards and,
Hmm.
and the buried treasure I thought that I was digging for was just cat turds. Just cat turd trinkets.
Purple cat turd trinkets. Yes.
Oh man, that's okay. How about following that up with Patrick?
It's if you don't like time loop games, this is still one of those. It does things in a different way that might make you think that you're not playing a time loop game, but it's still a time loop game, and you're gonna be repeating a lot of things, and there's one way to do it. And if that's gonna bother you, avoid it. But otherwise, I think it's a beautiful game. Some of the best VO performance I've heard in a long time. And I think the level design is just fantastic. That they just do that so unbelievably well. So if you just honestly, I enjoyed my time with it, even though I bounced off of it and didn't finish it. Like I still was like having a blast exploring those areas and just digging through all the goodies laid about. But yeah, it is sort of surface level for the most part.
Round us out here, Kevin.
Sure. So like I said, I really genuinely liked this game, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for what they were trying to do here. Like I said at the beginning, I feel like Deathloop is, and this might completely not be the case because I don't I wasn't there for the development of this game. I can only speculate. But to me, Deathloop is a game that feels like it has a lot of big ideas, and the scope that those ideas promised were just not realized in this game. That said, those ideas were so strong, and the team behind it so competent in the way that they make a game that, man, I did just enjoy the heck out of playing this game. I feel like it might seem like I've done nothing but gripe after it on a lot of aspects, but man, it's like what Steven said. I see so much potential in this game, and I see kind of what they were going for, and the promise of, when these ideas were pitched in the early game design meetings, just the promise of these ideas is so good that man, I hope this isn't the last game I see like this, and I hope that Arcane in particular keeps working on this style of game that they're doing, and keeps making better things with it, because I think that there's still a lot to be mined here, and I hope that they give their ideas the room to breathe that they need in the future, and that we see more of these wonderful ideas realized in their future games.
Yeah,
And
and
maybe do a multiplayer game
Also,
ooh,
yeah,
because you've got good ideas.
yeah,
yes,
that if the multiplayer for this game is any indication, yeah, maybe consider doing a multiplayer game,
a
because
multiplayer game. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and for my final thoughts, I think I'll echo a lot of what was said. Like, I appreciate what they were trying for. I think there's something new and unique, and and yeah, I think there's something to be like coveted in there. Whether or not it needed a little bit more polish or a little bit more time in the oven, I can kind of agree with that because some of the systems aren't fully realized. I don't know what a Deathloop 2 would look like, but would you guys be interested in that?
absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be curious. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah, I would definitely want to check it out. I think that there was enough there that, again, I don't know what that would
sure.
possibly, but again, I mean, we've been wrong before with you
Yeah,
know, with the Outer Wilds DLC that we said would be impossible, and then it was announced like right after that.
No, there's egg on my face.
yeah.
oh, you know what?
Very happy egg on my face.
I take it back. I don't want a Deathloop 2, but what I do want is more time with some of these characters, and so I'd love to see a
Mm,
more either actual sandbox or more straightforward story. Or like I'd love to see more of this world and these characters and
sure.
continue. You know,
A prequel game wouldn't be terrible.
yeah, like
Oh,
anything that could shed some light on like, well, now what or what? How did we get here? Would
We
be I
could
think
like
would be
or
really interesting.
a sequel co-op game with like Colt and Juliana, like,
mm.
like
Yeah,
the
What does
two
that
of
look
that would be
them.
like?
super cool.
Okay,
Hey,
okay.
if it gets those characters
Yeah, those
and
characters are
talking to
so
each other
good.
again, like,
Their
man, I'll take
chemistry
anything.
is so good. I'd love to see the two of them together.
Yeah, yeah. And in the end, like I loved the art. I enjoyed the kind of shooting aspect. I think this stealth was, well, primarily the only thing you could do in the game. I still like enjoyed it, and it occasionally you'd get those stakes raised when your lives are running out. But yeah, I think the golden loop was a little bit too linear for the kind of promise of a looping game, um, but I think it's worth potentially picking up and playing through. I think they are trying something new and unique, and I think that's worth touting.
Yeah, it
Well,
sounds
cool.
interesting. Buy
Yeah,
it if you're on the fence. Definitely buy it when you see a sale.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, this game is absolutely. There will be sales for this game, and yeah, for $20, this is a steal. Like,
yeah.
20-30 bucks, this is absolutely a go for it. Yeah.
Great.
Also, oh, okay.
Go for
Last
it.
thing.
No
Also,
problem.
like, I think it's the perfect like on sale holiday game or something because if you walk away from this game for too long, you do sort of like lose your momentum.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's.
yeah,
I think.
Great one to pick up on like winter break and play through in like
exactly.
over
Yeah,
the
grab
course
it
of a
on
week.
sale on winter break and just crush it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good observation.
Well, cool. Thank you, Friend Zone members. Thank you, Kevin, Patrick, and Steven, for sitting down to discuss Deathloop. Looking forward to discussing more games, like war games, as always. And yeah, thank you very much for being here and sharing your thoughts.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Perfect. And thank you, viewers. Thank you for hanging out. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy this content. If you would like to see more, check out feel free to subscribe to my YouTube, Twitch. I will have links down below in the description. Thanks again to Kevin, Patrick, and Steven for sitting down, playing through Deathloop, and talking to it with you and me. So, as always, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a super month. And I hope you have a super day. Bye!